There's a plant growing in a ditch somewhere near you right now, probably on a roadside, along a fence line, maybe in a field you've driven past 100 times, that Vikings boiled into a shampoo over 1,000 years ago and used to keep their hair in condition good enough to make the English furious about it. It costs nothing. It grows wild across most of the world. It has been used as a hair cleanser for at least 12,000 years. And the shampoo industry, which generates over $90 billion a year globally, has spent the better part of a century making absolutely sure you never thought to look it up. Stick around, because I am going to show you exactly what this plant is, what it does to your hair that commercial shampoo quietly does not, and how to make the same formula the Vikings used, updated for a modern kitchen, in about 20 minutes, with ingredients that cost you nothing or close to it. But first, let's talk about what you think you know about Viking hair. The image is of wild, matted, wind-tangled hair on violent, unwashed men who smelled of longships and blood. That image was created almost entirely by Christian monks, the very people Vikings were raiding, who had every reason to paint them as subhuman and very little interest in accuracy. So that is the history you got. Here is what the archaeology actually shows. In Ipswich, England, archaeologists excavating Viking Age sites between 1974 and 1994 uncovered over 1,300 bone and antler combs, an extraordinary collection described as unmatched anywhere else in the country. Not weapons, not plunder, combs. Smithsonian Magazine, reporting on the findings, noted that the National Museum of Denmark describes Viking grooming kits as not very different from what we carry today. Combs, ear picks, tweezers, all of it. These were not luxury items for the wealthy. They were found across all sites, all social levels. Every Viking, regardless of status, apparently considered a comb essential enough to be buried with one. The Arab traveler Ibn Fadlan, who encountered Norse traders on the Volga River in 922, wrote about them at length and with considerable opinion. He was not impressed by the shared washing basin, but he noted in the same account that every morning each man washed his face and combed his hair over the basin, every single morning. This was a man from a culture that ritually washed 5 times a day, and he still documented the Norse as people who maintained a daily grooming routine on a river trading expedition. The Norse word for Saturday, lagardagar, translates directly to washing day. John of Wallingford, an English chronicler, documented with barely concealed outrage that Viking men bathed weekly, changed their clothes regularly, and combed their hair every day, and that this had become such an attraction to Anglo-Saxon women that it was causing marital chaos across England. Marriages were ending, not because of Viking violence, because of clean, well-maintained hair. They were the best groomed people in medieval Europe, and they did not buy anything to achieve it. What they used on their hair came from plants, specifically from a plant called Soapwort, Saponaria officinalis, a flowering perennial that grows wild across Scandinavia, across Europe, across Asia, and has naturalized across North America so thoroughly that it now grows along roadsides and in fields in nearly every temperate region on the planet. Archaeological evidence from Viking settlements confirms the use of plants with natural cleansing properties for personal care. Soapwort's use as a washing agent in Northern Europe is documented across historical herbals and ethnobotanical records going back centuries, and the mechanism it uses is one of the most elegant pieces of plant chemistry you will ever encounter. Here is what it does and why it works. The plant contains compounds called saponins, named in fact from Saponaria, the plant itself. Saponins are natural surfactants. A surfactant is a molecule with one end that bonds to oil and one end that bonds to water simultaneously, which is exactly what cleaning requires, lifting oil and dirt off the hair and allowing water to carry it away. Saponins do this without disrupting your scalp's natural oil barrier in the process. They clean what needs to be cleaned and leave the rest alone. This is fundamentally different from what your commercial shampoo is doing. Modern shampoo was not always what it is today. Before the 1930s, shampoo and soap were essentially the same thing, naturally derived surfactants that varied in gentleness but worked on the same basic chemistry. Then in 1930, Procter & Gamble introduced a product called Drene, the first shampoo built on a fully synthetic surfactant called sodium lauryl sulfate. It was not developed because it was better for your hair. It was developed because synthetic surfactants were cheaper to manufacture at scale, more stable in a bottle, and produced a dramatically richer lather than anything natural. And lather, as it turns out, is not a cleaning indicator. It is a psychological one. People associate foam with clean. Procter & Gamble knew this. The foam was, in significant part, a marketing mechanism. By the 1950s, sodium lauryl sulfate had taken over the industry. By the 1960s, it was in almost every shampoo on the shelf. And by then, an entire second industry had quietly emerged to deal with the problem it created. Here is what sodium lauryl sulfate actually does. It is an extremely effective degreaser, effective enough that the same compound appears in industrial engine degreasers and construction site cleaning products. When you apply it to your scalp, it does not selectively remove dirt and excess oil. It strips everything. Your scalp produces sebum, a natural oil that protects the hair shaft, maintains the moisture balance of the scalp, and feeds the skin's natural microbiome. Sodium lauryl sulfate dissolves it completely. Your scalp, now stripped bare, responds to this the way skin always responds to being stripped. It produces more oil to compensate, which means by the following morning, your hair feels greasy, which means you shampoo again, which strips it again, which triggers more oil production, which requires another wash. The daily shampooing habit was not a natural phenomenon. It was an engineered cycle. Before synthetic shampoo, weekly washing was standard across most of Europe. After it, the industry successfully trained an entire population to wash their hair every day using a product that made daily washing feel necessary. The conditioner industry, worth $20 billion on its own, exists almost entirely to repair the damage that shampoo causes in the same wash cycle. You are paying twice, once to strip your hair and once to put back what you stripped. The plant the Vikings used does not do this. And here is how you make it. Soapwort grows wild and costs nothing if you can find it. It is a common roadside plant, easy to identify by its clusters of pale, pink, or white, 5-petaled flowers on thick stems, usually found near water, along fence lines, and in disturbed ground. It is prolific and considered invasive in many areas, which means harvesting it freely is doing the landscape a favor. If you cannot find it growing near you, dried soapwort root is available from any herbal supplier or online for a few dollars, for enough to make months of batches. The root is where the saponin concentration is highest, significantly more concentrated than in the leaves, though the leaves and stems work too. For a standard batch, enough for roughly a week of washing depending on hair length, you need 2 tablespoons of dried soapwort root, or a generous handful of fresh leaves and stems if you have them, and 2 cups of water, filtered or rainwater specifically. This matters and is not optional. The calcium and magnesium minerals in hard tap water bind to saponins and neutralize their cleaning action. If you have a filtered jug in your fridge, use that water. If not, buy a liter of distilled water. It costs 50 cents, and 1 bottle makes several batches. Place the soapwort and water in a small saucepan. Bring it to a boil, then reduce the heat to a gentle simmer and cover the pan. Let it go for 15 to 20 minutes, long enough for the saponins to fully leach into the water. The liquid will take on a faintly golden or greenish tint, depending on whether you are using root or leaves. That color is normal and expected. Remove it from heat and let it cool completely with the lid on. This is not a step to rush. Hot liquid applied to a scalp is unpleasant. Lukewarm is where you want to be. Strain the liquid through a piece of cheesecloth or clean kitchen towel into a jar or bottle, squeezing the plant material to get everything out. What you have now is your base shampoo. It is ready to use as it is, or you can take it one step further. The Vikings did not stop at clean hair. Archaeological finds from Norse settlements show evidence of herbal preparations, nettle, yarrow, rosemary, used in personal care. This is not surprising. These plants are not decorative additions. They each do something specific that the saponin base does not. Add 3 or 4 fresh rosemary sprigs or 1 teaspoon of dried rosemary to the pot during the last 5 minutes of simmering. Rosemary contains ursolic acid and rosmarinic acid, both of which have documented effects on scalp circulation and hair follicle stimulation. A 2023 study published in the journal SkinMed found rosemary oil to be as effective as minoxidil, the active ingredient in Rogaine, for promoting hair growth over a 6-month period, without the side effects. You're not using oil here, but the active compounds leach readily into the hot water during the simmer. If your scalp runs dry or your hair is coarse and prone to frizz, add 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar to the cooled, strained liquid before bottling. The acidity closes the hair cuticle after washing. The same function a conditioner performs and leaves the hair shaft smooth and reflective. You will not smell the vinegar once your hair dries. The scent disappears entirely. If you want something more fragrant, 5 drops of cedarwood or pine essential oil stirred into the cooled batch gives it a clean Nordic scent that costs almost nothing per batch and lasts. 10 drops of tea tree oil instead gives you antimicrobial action on the scalp, useful if you run oily at the roots or have any scalp irritation. To use it, wet your hair thoroughly, pour a small amount of the soapwort liquid into your palm, and work it through your scalp and roots with your fingertips. One thing to know before you try this for the first time, soapwort does not produce a rich foam. It produces a mild, thin lather. This is not a sign that something has gone wrong. This is what cleaning without synthetic foaming agents actually looks like. The foam you expect from commercial shampoo is sodium lauryl sulfate doing its job. which is making foam. The Soapwort is doing its job, which is cleaning your hair. They are different jobs, and only one of them actually matters. Rinse thoroughly, and your hair will feel, this is the word people use when they try this for the first time, clean in a way that is different from clean after shampoo. Not stripped, just clean. 2 practical notes. First, make a fresh batch every 7 to 10 days and keep it in the fridge between uses. Soapwort contains no preservatives, and the liquid will go off at room temperature within a few days. You will know if it has by the smell, which will shift from herbal and green to sour. Refrigerated, it holds well for a week to 10 days. If you want to extend that, freeze half the batch in an ice cube tray and thaw a few cubes the night before you need them. Second, if you switch to this from commercial shampoo, allow 2 to 3 weeks of adjustment. Your scalp has been on the strip and overcompensate cycle for however long you have been using sulfate shampoo. It has been producing excess oil in response to being stripped. When you stop stripping it, it will take a few weeks to recalibrate its oil production to a baseline it was never being allowed to reach. During that window, your hair may feel greasier than you expect. That is the cycle unwinding. It passes, and once it does, most people find they can wash their hair every 3 to 4 days instead of every day or two, because the cycle that was driving daily washing no longer exists. The Soapwort plant has been documented as a cleaning agent since the Stone Age. It cleaned the hair of Vikings who were good-looking enough to destabilize marriages in medieval England. It is so gentle that museums in Europe still use Soapwort extract today to clean ancient and irreplaceable textiles that no commercial detergent can safely touch. And it grows in a ditch by the road. It always has. The $90 billion shampoo industry replaced 12,000 years of plant-based hair care with a synthetic degreaser, convinced an entire civilization that daily washing was necessary, then built a second $20 billion industry to fix the damage. And the thing that actually works has been flowering along your roadside the entire time, waiting for you to notice it. Now you know, and you won't forget it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.